The story begins with a shock that the world never expected. A nation once feared for its massive weapons factories is suddenly struggling to keep them alive. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Frontline Report channel. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today, we dive deep into the shocking reason behind Russia's arms industry collapse. Why one of the world's largest military producers is now unable to supply enough weapons for its own frontline. This story is not just about machines, factories, or sanctions. It's about the enormous pressure of modern war, the hidden weaknesses inside Russia's defense sector, and the unexpected consequences that are slowly dismantling a giant from within. From the outside, Russia's arms industry still looks powerful. Huge assembly halls, endless rows of tanks, missiles, artillery, and armored vehicles, structures that once symbolized raw industrial strength. At first glance, these factories appear as unstoppable war machines capable of producing weapons at Soviet-era scale. Towering smokestacks and aging metal workshops stand as reminders of decades of militarization. Yet beneath the cold steel and echoing halls hides a rapidly worsening crisis that Moscow can no longer hide. What used to be a shining symbol of national power is slowly turning into a graveyard of outdated machines, broken supply lines, and missing workers. Inside these factories, the situation is very different from what state propaganda shows. The interior feels cramped, outdated, and nearly frozen in time. Many of the machines still in use are older than the workers operating them, with some dating back to the 1960s and 70s. Parts are missing, tools are worn out, and engineers constantly improvise with whatever they can find. Younger technicians are almost non-existent, leaving an aging workforce struggling to meet impossible deadlines. Entire sections of the plants that once produced precision electronics are now empty due to a complete shutdown in foreign component supplies. The atmosphere is quiet not because the work is done, but because the people and parts needed to keep the operations running simply aren't there anymore. Performance across all sectors of Russia's weapon production has collapsed under the pressure of the Ukraine war. Factories that once boasted impressive production numbers are now scrambling to keep up with losses on the battlefield. Tanks require modern optics, thermal imagers, and advanced targeting systems, none of which Russia can now produce at scale without Western components. Aircraft manufacturing has slowed to a crawl due to shortages of composite materials and microchips. Missile production has fallen dramatically, forcing Russia to rely on crude substitutes or imports from countries like Iran and North Korea. Even basic artillery shells, which the Soviet Union once produced by the millions, are now difficult to replace quickly. Performance has not just declined, it has regressed, showing that Russia's industry was built on technology it can no longer access. Safety systems have also deteriorated severely. Under immense production pressure, factories are cutting corners to meet unrealistic quotas. Workers report equipment failures, missing fire, suppression systems, and dangerous workloads that lead to burnout and accidents. Some plants have experienced explosions, fires, and fatal incidents caused by poor maintenance and overstressed machinery. Many assembly lines are forced to operate without proper testing procedures, meaning tanks roll out with unreliable engines, drones suffer GPS and signal issues, and missiles sometimes fail immediately after launch. Because Russia prioritizes quantity over quality, battlefield safety suffers, leading to even faster equipment loss and higher casualties. What used to be industrial discipline has turned into desperate improvisation. Despite all of these problems, the industry still tries to highlight what it believes are unique selling points. Moscow promotes its ability to produce cheaper weapons compared to Western alternatives, claiming affordability and ruggedness as strengths. Russia advertises the idea that its equipment can be manufactured quickly and in bulk, but the reality contradicts these claims. Modern warfare demands precision, reliability, and advanced electronics, features Russia cannot fully replicate without global supply chains. Some states that once relied heavily on Russian arms are now turning toward Western suppliers or developing their own industries, realizing that Russian products no longer meet modern standards. Even Russia's own military complains openly about outdated systems, lack of night vision technology, poor communication units, and low survivability. The selling points that once made Russia a dominant exporter have evaporated, leaving the industry stranded. The price of keeping this broken system alive is enormous. Russia is spending billions to rebuild factories, source illegal components, and rent foreign production capacities. The cost of a single modern tank has skyrocketed because Russia must now smuggle electronic chips through complex routes involving third countries. The price of each missile is far higher due to sanctions targeting precision components. Basic equipment like radios, batteries, and sensors now costs triple the pre-war price. Meanwhile, Russia's government is pouring huge amounts of money into defense, draining resources from healthcare, education, infrastructure, and civilian industries. Inflation increases, salaries stagnate, and the population faces rising economic pressure, all while the arms industry consumes more than ever, but produces less than before. The collapse becomes even clearer when looking at international arms sales. For decades, Russia was the world's second largest weapons exporter. Countries in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East lined up for Russian jets, helicopters, tanks, and missiles. But now, orders are declining rapidly. Many nations report delays, quality problems, and outdated designs. Jet engines are unreliable, aircraft lack modern avionics, and spare parts are nearly impossible to obtain due to sanctions. Countries that previously depended heavily on Russian technology are shifting toward Western systems, drones from Turkey, or local production. India, Russia's biggest arms customer, is reducing imports and developing alternatives. Egypt, Algeria, Vietnam, Indonesia, and others have cancelled or postponed Russian arms deals. With exports shrinking, revenue drying up, and trust eroding, the global reputation of Russia's arms industry is fading faster than Moscow expected. Another critical factor behind the collapse is the massive brain drain. After the start of the war, hundreds of thousands of Russia's most skilled engineers, programmers, designers, and technicians fled the country to escape mobilization, economic decline, and political pressure. These were the experts responsible for microelectronics, advanced weapon design, software, and AI development. Without them, Russia's industry is left with gaps that cannot be filled quickly. Training new workers takes years. Retaining older workers is difficult due to low wages and exhausting workloads. Even universities struggle to produce enough qualified graduates because many professors have also left the country. As talent disappears, the entire ecosystem that supports high-tech weapon production collapses with it. Sanctions have played a devastating role as well. Western restrictions cut off Russia from semiconductors, turbines, optics, machine tools, aircraft parts, and industrial equipment. The arms industry relied heavily on imported tools and technologies, even if state propaganda denied it. Without these imports, production is forced to rely on outdated Soviet substitutes or smuggled parts from abroad. Some smuggled electronics are intended for household appliances, not weapons, leading to repeated failures on the battlefield. Sanctions also prevent Russia from accessing global financial systems, making it difficult to pay suppliers or complete international contracts. Even countries willing to help face pressure from the international community, limiting Russia's ability to bypass restrictions. The economic isolation is slowly suffocating the entire industry. Corruption, a long-standing issue, has worsened dramatically during the war. Funds allocated for military production frequently vanish into private pockets. Contracts are manipulated, parts are replaced with cheaper components, and quality control is ignored to speed up production. In some factories, managers report fake numbers to avoid punishment, claiming unrealistic production successes. Workers leak footage of warehouses filled with defective equipment or vehicles missing essential parts. Corruption turns every attempt to modernize the industry into a financial disaster. Instead of solving problems, it creates new ones, ensuring that even the limited production Russia can still manage is compromised by fraud and mismanagement. The war in Ukraine exposes these weaknesses relentlessly. Every destroyed tank, every shot-down aircraft, every malfunctioning drone tells the world, and Russia, how far the industry has fallen. Ukraine's Western, supplied precision systems outperform Russian hardware in almost every category. Modern artillery radars, advanced anti-tank missiles, superior drones, and satellite-guided munitions destroy Russian equipment faster than it can be replaced. This mismatch accelerates Russia's industrial exhaustion, creating a cycle where losses exceed production capacity. As a result, the Russian army fields older and older equipment, pulling T-62s and T-55s from storage, some older than the officers commanding them. Russia is using weapons designed in the 1950s and 60s on a 21st century battlefield, a clear sign of collapse. Despite these challenges, the Russian government pushes propaganda claiming that everything is under control. State TV shows polished videos of factories working at full capacity, workers smiling, and new tanks rolling off assembly lines. But independent investigations reveal the truth. Many of these tanks are refurbished, not newly built. Many missiles contain foreign chips smuggled from commercial markets. Many drones are copied from foreign designs, but lack critical components. The collapse is not sudden. It is gradual, structural, and almost irreversible without foreign assistance. The shocking reason behind this collapse is simple. Russia never modernized its arms industry enough to stand alone. For decades, it relied on old Soviet infrastructure, cheap labor, and global supply chains to maintain production. When sanctions and war conditions cut off those lifelines, the system crumbled. This is a failure of planning, modernization, and leadership. It is a crisis created not by one factor, but by a combination of outdated technology, corruption, sanctions, labor shortages, battlefield pressure, and international isolation. In the end, the collapse of Russia's arms industry has consequences far beyond manufacturing. It reshapes global arms markets, alters alliances, weakens Russia's geopolitical influence, and ultimately reduces its capacity to sustain long-term warfare. What was once a symbol of national pride is now a burden draining the country's economy and exposing its vulnerabilities. The story is still unfolding, and its impact will be felt for years to come. Russia's arms industry, once a giant of global defense production, now stands at a crossroads, struggling to survive in a world that has rapidly evolved beyond the technology and methods it depends on.